I work in commercial real estate financing. I'm not flashy, not dramatic, just steady. Same job for years, same gym schedule, same grocery store. People usually describe me as reliable, which I never questioned until all this happened. She and I were together almost 6 years. Not married, but living together long enough that it felt like paperwork was the only thing missing. Same dentist, shared friends, shared storage unit, a dog that technically I adopted, but everyone called ours. It was one of those relationships where nothing feels urgent because you assume time is on your side. The night things blew up didn't feel dramatic at first. Tuesday night, takeout containers on the counter. She was sitting at the kitchen island with her laptop closed, hands folded, like she'd already rehearsed everything. She said she'd been thinking a lot and needed to explore life on her own, that she felt stuck. Not unhappy, just unfinished. She said she needed space to figure out who she was outside of a relationship. I asked if there was someone else. She said no, very quickly. Then came the line that should have told me everything. "I'm not asking you to wait," she said, paused, then added, "but I don't want this to mean we're done forever." That word, pause, kept showing up, like we were pressing a button and freezing time, not breaking up. I didn't beg, didn't argue. I asked practical questions. How long? Where she'd go? What about the dog? She seemed relieved that I stayed calm, like that meant I agreed with her version of events. She moved into a furnished sublet 2 weeks later. We split expenses cleanly, hugged awkwardly. She said she hoped I wouldn't rush into anything and that this was just space. At the time, I didn't date, not because I was waiting, but because my head was loud and my life suddenly felt stripped down. I went to the gym more, cooked instead of ordering out, walked the dog longer, built a routine that didn't revolve around checking my phone. She texted every few days. Random memes, songs, saw this and thought of you. Just enough to stay present, not enough to resolve anything. About 3 months in, I ran into someone I'd known loosely through work events years earlier. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a hike. No drama, no rush. It felt normal, easy. I wasn't hiding it, but I wasn't broadcasting it either. She found out anyway. She called me close to midnight one weekend. I answered because part of me still thought that was what decent people did. Her voice was shaky. She said she thought I'd wait, said she felt blindsided, said she never meant for me to move on, that her leaving was about her growth, not about ending us. I told her I didn't replace her. I told her she chose to leave. That's when the tone shifted. She said I was punishing her, that I had abandoned her emotionally, that what we had deserved patience. She asked to meet in person. I said no. She showed up anyway a couple days later with a leash she'd forgotten, even though we both knew the dog lived with me. She looked around the apartment like she was checking to see if it still belonged to her, asked if the other woman had been there. I didn't answer. She said I was being cruel. That's when things started getting messy. She told mutual friends that I'd promised to wait and then betrayed her, that I had emotionally shut down. Invitations stopped coming. One friend even told me I should apologize because she's really struggling. Then she contacted my mother. Long message, very sad tone, framed herself as confused and hurt by my coldness. The first real line she crossed came a few weeks later. Someone emailed my company anonymously claiming I had violated ethics rules by dating a client. Completely made up. HR had to investigate anyway. I had to hand over emails, timelines, contracts. Everything cleared, but that was the moment I realized this wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It was about control. I stopped replying to her messages after that. A couple months later, I got a letter from a lawyer. She was claiming she had a financial interest in my apartment because she had contributed to renovations and living expenses, and she wanted either a payout or a forced sale.
For clarity, the apartment was mine. Bought years before she moved in, mortgage only in my name, renovations paid from my account, no written agreement, no common law marriage in our state. I hired an attorney. We responded with documents and receipts, offered nothing. She still filed. The case dragged on for months. Mediation went nowhere because she demanded half the apartment's current value for lost future stability. The judge dismissed the claim before trial. No standing, no evidence. Ordered her to reimburse my legal fees. That should have been it. Instead, she escalated again. She found the new woman on LinkedIn and emailed her, framing it as concern, warning her about my patterns, saying I emotionally control partners and discard them once they depend on me. The new woman forwarded everything to me without panic or accusation, asked if I wanted her to block the email. I said yes. At that point, something in me snapped into focus. I'd spent over a year playing defense, explaining myself, proving I wasn't the villain she kept painting. I finally realized she didn't want closure. She wanted leverage. So I stopped reacting emotionally and started responding strictly by the book. We'd shared a storage unit during the relationship. I paid for it. After the breakup, I emailed her multiple times asking her to collect her belongings. She said she wasn't ready to deal with memories. Legally, abandoned property is abandoned property if proper notice is given. My attorney handled it. Certified letters, deadlines, all above board. She missed the final deadline. Inside the unit were mostly personal items, journals, clothes, old electronics, also a folder containing printed work documents belonging to her employer, sensitive information she clearly shouldn't have taken home. I didn't go through it. I turned everything over to my attorney, who contacted her employer's legal department with a neutral explanation of how it was obtained. They launched their own investigation. Around the same time, during the process of recovering my legal fees, she tried to claim financial hardship, filed statements saying she was underemployed due to emotional distress from the breakup. Except she had been publicly posting about long trips, a new apartment, and an expensive career coaching program. Dates and timelines didn't match her sworn statements. My attorney submitted screenshots. The judge denied her request for a payment plan and approved wage garnishment. Outside the courtroom, she finally dropped the soft voice. She said I didn't have to ruin her life. I told her I didn't ruin anything. I just didn't freeze mine while she figured hers out. She looked shocked, like the idea had never crossed her mind that I'd move forward instead of waiting to be chosen again. That was the last time we spoke. She stopped contacting my family. Friends eventually drifted back once they realized the story they'd heard didn't line up with reality. I didn't campaign for sympathy. I let time do its thing. I moved on quietly, slowly, built something solid without ultimatums disguised as self-discovery. Here's what I learned. Some people don't want freedom. They want options. They want to leave without being left, to explore while keeping someone on standby.
Didn't wait. It cost me money, stress, and a lot of patience, but it gave me my life back. If you read all that, congrats. You didn't pause either. Stick around if you like stories where people learn that you don't get to walk away and still control the ending.